I used all of these to mix my toms. Here's what they do. First, I panned the drums left and right. I decided to mix it from audience perspective, and let me tell you, as a drummer, it definitely hurts me to do that. But it really helps being audience perspective when my camera angle is also from your view. EQ. So I used a very basic EQ that looked pretty similar on both drums. I boosted the fundamental. For the rack tom it was about 100 Hz, and for the floor tom it was about 60 Hz. I realized that it needed a little bit of attack or some clarity, so I boosted about 7.2K on both drums. But there was some mud in the mid-range, and that made me cut two different places on both drums. The rack tom, the first one was around 200 Hz, and on the floor tom the first cut was around 180 Hz. So very similar spot. The second cut for the rack tom was at 500 Hz, and for the floor tom was about 800 Hz. I also wanted to try out a Pultec style EQ. So I did a Pultec technique, which is where you take the same frequency and you boost it and cut it, maybe at different amounts, but you still boost and cut the exact same frequency. I did that for the fundamental frequency on both drums and on the highs. This is what it sounds like. After the EQ, the cymbals really are starting to get out of control, which are quite the headache. So I really need to figure out a way to get rid of those cymbals in the toms. If you noticed, I did chop up the toms so that there's some empty spaces, but it still just didn't do it. And I tried to use a normal gate, but that didn't quite work the way I wanted it to. So I decided to go out and really solve that problem by buying a new plugin, Silencer. If you've watched any of my videos yet so far, you know that this has become a really important plugin for mixing my drums, and it's just the same here on the toms. What you can use is the 3 knobs to dial in the sound that you want while also using the threshold. There's a button for every single drum. In this case, I used the tom button for both. I think I accidentally left it on the snare button for the rack tom, but it still sounded okay. Here's what that sounds like. Compression. Next, I use the same 2 compressors on both drums. I used an LA2A compressor by UAD first, and what I did was get some basic compression. I got about -5 dB of gain reduction with this one. The next compressor I used was a pretty aggressive drum bus compressor. I mixed that in about 60%. It had a fast attack and release. It was getting about -8 dB of gain reduction. It was on a 4:1 ratio as well, and I mixed that in to beef up the toms. Here's what those sound like. Lastly, I used a clipper. Not everyone loves a clipper, but what it does is it allows you to just snip off the very tops of the drum in a hardly audible way. Some people can hear it, but it really just allows you to take away some of the peaks that are eating up the mix headroom for the drums. It also allows the drums to get a little bit louder. Here's what these toms sound like. So I used this exact tom mix in my latest drum cover, and if you really want to hear the whole mix together with the song, click right here. Thanks again guys for watching. Remember to keep dreaming big. I'll see you in the next one.